Good morning, and you're listening to me, Bhavini Makwana, on BHF Radio on this beautiful, glorious Saturday, the 17th of July. How has everyone's mornings been so far? I can guarantee they're gonna get even better. Stay tuned with us for the next hour. We've got fantastic Garbas coming up, live singing, and we'll be talking all about Navratri. But first, I know it's been a week, but it's my first show since we had the football. Yep, England did come second, and I know there was a lot of upset and sadness, but you know what? I think they played phenomenally well, and all the very best to them. Big congratulations to them. They came second, and they did lose to Italy in the penalty shootout. But enough of the football. We are talking about Navratri because yes, it is Navratri. We will be talking about why there are 4 Nortas in a year, what the difference and significance between each of them is, and we're going to be joined by Hiren from the Bhajan Hour, who will be diving all into the meaning and educating us with his fantastic knowledge and awareness of our culture. And we're also joined by Anupriya Taylor, who will be singing live Garbas on air, and that's only on BHF Radio. So stay tuned. We will be introducing Anupriya, but we're going to listen to her first singing. She's chosen a beautiful Gampati song. And before we start anything good, anything that we want to go well, we think of Gampati Bappa. So Anupriya, take it away.
Hi, okay, here we go. Okay, so this is for, we're starting off with Ganpati Bappa Garba. Ganpati ayo baba, riddhi siddhi laayo. Ganpati ayo baba, riddhi siddhi laayo. Gajanand ayo, riddhi siddhi laayo. Gajanand ayo, riddhi siddhi laayo. Gauri no nand ayo, Shivji no baar ayo. Ayo re ayo bapu ek dant varo. आयो रे आयो बापू एक दंत वारो प्रीते ही ने प्रीते बापा भरायो लाडू में तो गिर गिर बापा तारा गुन लारे गाओ गिर गिर बापा तारा गुन लारे गाओ गणपति आयो बाबा हो गणपति आयो बाबा रिधि सिद्धि लायो निर्भी बापा देखो नाल सुनायो निर्भी बापा देखो नाल सुनायो गजानन आयो रिधि सिद्धि लायो देव दुंदारो बापू मुठी सुंदारो बापू आयो रे आयो बापू गणेशरो पारो आयो रे आयो बापू गणेशरो पारो सदा ही सुख न दाता मिठू मलिकाटो बापा आयो रे आयो बापू दुख हरनारो आयो रे आयो बापू दुख हरनारो गणपति आयो बाबा गणपति आयो बाबा रिधि सिद्धि लायो निर्भी बापा देखो नाल सुनायो निर्भी बापा देखो नाल सुनायो गजानन आयो रिधि सिद्धि लायो गजानन आयो रिधि सिद्धि लायो गंगानी जमुना बापा पधारी पगला तारा ब्रह्माने विष्णु बापा धनु रे धरांता ब्रह्माने विष्णु बापा धनु रे धरांता देव नगमया तो पेला पूजारो बापू दस धनु रे तारा गुण लारे गाओ दस धनु रे तारा गुण लारे गाओ गणपति आयो बाबा गणपति आयो बाबा रिद्धि सिद्धि लायो निर्भीक बापा देखो नाल सुनायो निर्भीक बापा देखो नाल सुनायो गजानन आयो रिद्धि सिद्धि लायो गणपति आयो बाबा रिद्धि सिद्धि लायो गणपति आयो बाबा रिद्धि सिद्धि लायो गजानन आयो रिद्धि सिद्धि लायो. I think like when I was young, I think it started off through my granddad. His name is Nagin Pai Taylor, and he used to like be very well known in his like in the Gujarati community for his singing and like his harmonium, and he was really amazing. And I think uh, I think it's because of him actually, because I used to go to a lot of bhajans when I was younger. My parents took me, and I think I got exposed to that world at a really young age. And then ever since then, I think it just kind of happened naturally.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just like been really singing at home, and
Yeah.
like if anyone like for bhajans or like Garba events and stuff, that's where I usually go to sing. But usually it's just like practicing in the mandir or just practicing at home. And yeah, I don't know, it's just something within me about Navratri and Garba. It's been like my passion.
Yeah. Oh wow, amazing. And did you ever get to sing with your or play with your Bapa or no?
I was actually quite lucky enough. He did teach me harmonium when I was younger. And yeah, he taught me like Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Yeah.
He did teach me the harmonium, but I gotta get back to it. It's been a while.
Yeah. Oh well, fantastic. And it was a beautiful way to start the show. It really was. Hiren, and you've joined us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you just had an hour and a half on the radio doing the bhajan show. So for those of you who haven't yet tuned into the bhajan show, Hiren is our resident radio jockey with Maya Ben, who presents the bhajan show every day. Hiren, thank you for coming onto my show, and it's a pleasure having you. We're talking about Navratri and why there's four, and we're going to be going into that. But first of all, let's, for our listeners, give us a bit of an intro to you. Who is Hiren, and how did you become a presenter on the radio?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, thank you very much to yourself for having me on. I think we've always kind of crossed paths on the radio,
Yeah.
but we've never actually had this. So this is fantastic. So thank you very much. And, without buttering you up too much, your shows are always very informative and insightful. So it's genuinely a pleasure to be here and to be invited. So thank you very much. So I've actually been involved with Bolton Hindu Forum for a number of years now, actually. I used to work in their office, and then I was the secretary for a short period of time. So I've been quite involved in Bolton Hindu Forum, but also the local Mondays as well for a long time as well. So I'm currently a trustee for the Bolton Hindu Forum. And actually, because I've been so involved in the Mondays for, God, since I was about 16, to be honest, and I think Manubai used to constantly say to me, oh, you should join the radio, you should join the radio. And I kept saying, no, I've got too much on. Sadly, Manubai passed away, as we're all aware. And I think Gala was the one who messaged me and said, oh, can you help us out a little bit? I said, yeah, I don't mind. So I got into a bit of a routine of waking up extra early to do the radio and stuff. And then, and I'll be honest, I was never a morning person. So, when I tell people now that, oh, I'm live on air every morning at 8 o'clock, people still can't quite believe that. But, as they say, things are outside of our hand, and Bhagwan Karavito, and I think that's what happened. I got asked to do a few shows, and then it kind of just extended that. And now, like I said, it's a pleasure. Honestly, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be doing that every single morning on the radio. So kind of just got thrown in at the deep end, but would never kind of look back now. So it's been absolutely fantastic.
Amazing. So Hiren, for our listeners, I've told people that we're going to be talking about Navratri, and many people don't realize that actually there are 4 in a year. But I've got quite a number of young listeners listening in today. Sometimes even like myself, ask your parents, ask your elders, and sometimes, because. So those individuals, those youngsters are tuning in today. So let's take it back to the beginning. Like, what is Navratri? What is Northa?
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic question. And I think it's really important. And, again, credit to you for actually bringing this up, because I think a lot of the times, as you said, we ask the questions and we either don't get the answers because people really don't know them, or they're not quite sure how to explain them. I mean, and when we think about our kind of, the Hindu faith in particular, it was very kind of limited in terms of knowledge of what we had access to. The Brahmins used to kind of keep everything. They were in charge of like Shastras and scriptures and all the Vidis, etc. So to have that accessible was very hard. Of course, nowadays, like on my phone, I've got PDFs of like the Ramcharitmanas and the Bhagavad Gita, etc. So, with technology, things have become a lot more prevalent. And I think Navratri is a very important one because over time, I think like with anything, and I guess any religion or any faith, things do become a little bit more, I guess, either lost in translation or diluted down. And I think particularly with the Hindu faith, because there's so many kind of rich cultures and practices and some things that are not necessarily kind of relatable to people specifically living in this country or other countries outside of India. Navratri can very easily be lost as kind of just another kind of cultural phenomenon. But it's actually much more deeper than that. And I think Navratri in particular, you can't you can't not mention that Navratri is about Mataji, it's about all the Devis of our religion, kind of Shakti Upasana. We refer to Mataji as Adya Shakti, the Gujarati Arti is Adya Shakti Arti, which means the first or the original source of energy. And Navratri is about kind of going back to that. It's a kind of about engaging those energies that we all need. We need energy in every minute of our life, right? Whether it's getting out of bed, you need the energy to do that. Yeah. You need the energy to even move your hand to get food from the plate into your mouth. So energy is constantly, and it's what kind of makes the world go round. And interesting for our faith in particular, that energy is Shakti. It is feminine Shakti. That is making the world go round. Navratri in particular, as I said, sometimes it gets lost and we think it's just, kind of a festival. But, if we look at even the scientific things behind it, and don't forget, these festivals have been going on for thousands of years. But to think that Navratri is about 9 days of worship of Navadurga around, and in particular for Gujaratis, around the Garba, that represents womb, that represents a woman's womb. And the Diva, or the light inside that, represents energy or life that forms within the womb. And that is the greatest source of energy. That is the greatest miracle and the greatest power that can be on earth, is the miracle or the kind of the gift of life. And we celebrate and we honor it. We honor that through Navratri. By honoring that, we're honoring the females and the feminine power. And, going back again, you get 9 days of Navratri for Navadurga, celebrating 9 months of pregnancy as well. So these are not kind of coincidences. Yeah. These are very, very rich and very, very powerful and very, very significant days of worship and sadhana for people to really engage with and to really get back to basics with as well. And when we talk about going back to basics, a lot of times I get a question, Gabe, when we do Garba, we tend to go anti-clockwise rather than when we do production as in the Monday, we go clockwise. But the aspect of Garba is that we're going back to Mataji, we're going back to the source of energy. Right. So there's so many like very kind of very powerful moments or powerful symbols about Navratri that we definitely should not lose. But at the core, it is about, kind of reigniting ourselves and realigning our own, as they say, your own chakras, your own mental thoughts, your well-being, and also kind of acknowledging that this world, according to Shaktism or according to Mataji, this world is revolving around Mataji, is revolving around Shakti. And again, Shakti, power, any kind of power or energy is feminine. And that's something that really needs to be celebrated, because especially when you look at all these stories or things that happen in the news and you say, okay, women are treated badly, etc. First and foremost, our faith has always been a feminist faith, if you like. Yeah. And that's something that now more than ever needs to be celebrated. And that's kind of a little bit about, the power, the significance of Navratri.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that explanation. We're going to go to another Garba. Kum kum na pagla padya. Welcome back. You're listening to me, Bhavini Makwana, on BHF Radio, and Happy Navratri. Had a message from Mansukh Bhai Makwana who says Happy Navratri to everyone and great program. And also from Rekha Vagila from London who says interesting topic, enjoying the show. We are joined by Hiren Bhai from the Bhajan Hour on BHF Radio and Anupriya Taylor who is singing live Garbas on air. We are talking about Norta because it's Navratri, and we're talking about the different 4 Nortas that are happening in the year. Not many people are aware, so we've got our expert Hiren Bhai explaining our culture a little bit. So Hiren, we mentioned what is Navratri. So talk us a bit more about the 4 different Nortas that happen in a year and when they take place.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you rightly mentioned, a lot of people are only aware of the main Navratri, and then some people know about 2 Navratris in the year. But as you might rightly mention, there are 4 Navratris in the year that occur throughout. Again, I'm going to just put a bit of a disclaimer out there. Obviously, from a Gujarati background, I'm going to be mentioning more about kind of how the Gujarati celebrations happen and why they are. But of course, Navratri is celebrated across India by people from all backgrounds and all cultures, really, as well. But yeah, the 4 main Navratris, you get Chaitra Navratri in spring. That's also called Ram Navratri because the last day of that Navratri coincides with the Ram Navami. So Chaitra Navratri is the one in spring, and that's one that many people tend to know about. And then, of course, we get the big Shardiya Navratri in autumn time, around September, October time, which is the one that everyone knows about. Usually occurs in the Gujarati month, starting on the first day of the Aso Mahina. So Shukla Paksh Aso Mahina, the first day. So that's the Shardiya Navratri that takes place in autumn. And they're the 2 ones that most people know about. Outside of that, we have 2 Navratris that are now known as Gupta Navratris. They're secret or they're hidden Navratris. So one is currently taking place at the moment. So we're in the Ashad Navratri, which is around monsoon time. And it's actually Ashtami as well today. And the other Gupta Navratri is Maghi Navratri, which is in winter. Now, the importance of them 2, so of course we've got the Chaitra Navratri, which is kind of Ram Navratri. Also, we have the Shardiya Navratri. And again, that kind of coincides a little bit about, with Ram Bhagwan, because as we know, Mataji for 9 days is Navratri, and then the 10th day is Vijay Dashmi as well. So we'll look into a little bit of the correlation between Ram Bhagwan and Mataji as well. But interestingly about the Gupta Navratris, because we're in Gupta Navratri at the moment, these Gupta Navratris have become very, very important, really, for people who genuinely desire to have a connection or are on a spiritual journey with their sadhanas towards Shakti or Mataji or any of their devis, really. And I think the reason is because, as we know, and again, with many faiths, I mean, look at, say, the celebration of Christmas. One of the biggest things is it becomes very kind of commercialized. And similarly, we're finding this is happening with the Hindu religions as well, the Hindu festivals. So the Gupta Navratris have now become very, very important because they are very, very much still pure in their essence of what it is. And that goes back to the idea of people are trying to do sadhanas, they're trying to worship, they're trying to connect with Shakti or Mataji. And so they do that because it's still kind of untarnished, if you like. So there's still very much this aspect of it's still pure, it's still not been tainted by any kind of, as we talked about, commercialization. But also the other aspect of something being Gupta or secret. And I find this, like some people don't recite mantras in public, so Gayatri mantras and stuff. Some people do full 108 Gayatri mantra, Havan Jap. But some people will not recite Gayatri Mantra in public because they believe the more it's hidden, the more kind of contained it is, the more power or energy there is within it. So Gupta Navratris as well, people, especially with Mataji barracks, will sit in the presence of their devos or whatever sadhanas or whatever puja, and they will recite mantras to themselves secretly, Gupt, behind closed doors, to kind of really kind of energize that aspect of just those mantras and just those sadhanas, and make that kind of Gupta Navratri just about that as well. So we get those 4 Navratris in the Alexa 2 are still very much Gupt. But, to talk about just very briefly about the aspects of them being 4, again, this goes back to this aspect of, Mataji being energy. Mataji is also Prakriti, nature. Nature is also feminine according to Sanatan Dharma. And finally, Mother Earth as well, again, feminine, Apre Bhumi Devi Kanisha. And interestingly, these 4 Navratris kind of coincide with 4 seasons. So you get the Chaitra Navratri in spring, and then you get the Ashad Navratri, which is now during monsoon. You get Shardiya Navratri during winter, and then the Maghi Navratri. The Shardiya Navratri during autumn, and then the Maghi Navratri in winter. Again, very interesting how these all kind of coincide with seasons. An entire kind of beautiful imagery of Mother Earth, nature, and Mataji kind of coinciding to make 4 very, very beautiful, but also highly spiritual times of the year that we celebrate as the Navratris.
Very fascinating and interesting. Even I've learned a few stuff from you here, and thank you so much. Anupriya, are you ready for the next song? I'm certainly excited. So Anupriya will be taking away her rendition of Gori Randhari Re.
Yeah, can I just say, Hiren, that was a really amazing explanation, and I think now we can get some of that energy through this beautiful Garba called Ghor Andhari Re. It's a very traditional and authentic Garba. So yeah, I hope you guys like it. घोर अंधारी रे रात लड़ी मानिसरिया चार सवार घोर अंधारी रे रात लड़ी मानिसरिया चार सवार लीले घोरे रे कौन चरे माँ रांधल नो असवार लीले घोरे रे कौन चरे माँ रांधल नो असवार रांधल मवड़ी रे रने चरिया मा सोरस जी शनगार सौवा मुंडनो रे सुखलडू मायद मननी कोले रमजो रे गोरनियो तमे रमजो सारी रात घोर अंधारी रे रात लड़ी मानिसरिया चारे असवार कारे घोरे रे कौन चरे माँ कारकानो असवार कारे घोरे रे कौन चरे माँ कारकानो असवार कारका मवरी रे रने चरिया माँ सोर सजी शनगा सौवा मन नूरे सुखलडू मायद मननी कोले रमजो रे गोरनियो तमे रमजो सारी रात घोर अंधारी रे रात लड़ी मानिसरिया चरे असवार धोरे घोरे रे कौन चरे माँ बहुचर नो असवार धोरे घोरे रे कौन चरे माँ बहुचर नो असवार बहुचर मवड़ी रे रने चरिया मा सोर सजी शनगार सहुआ मंडनो रे सुखलडू मायद मननी कोले रमजो रे गोरनियो तमे रमजो सारी रात घोर अंधारी रे रात लड़ी मानिसरिया चारे असवार घोर अंधारी रे रात लड़ी मानिसरिया चारे असवार.
Absolutely wonderful. That was so beautiful. Again, another fantastic one from you, Anupriya.
Thank you. This is actually one of my really favorite ones. I always sing this during Navratri as well.
Yeah, no, that was really, really beautiful. We've got a few messages coming through. I'm going to wait and check them all. But next we're going to listen to a mixed Garba.
Hey,
That was a mixed Garba you just heard there, and before that the wonderful sensational singing by Anupriya, Gori Randari Re. And we've had a few messages come in and they're all saying the same thing. Message from Kalaben and Mansuk Pai from Coventry saying, what a fantastic show, love the explanations by Hiren and the wonderful singing by Anupriya. A message from Hosmita on email to say, great program, loving the explanations and what beautiful singing. And we've got a couple more messages to that effect from Sheila, Ben and Dinesh Pai, both from Luton. So thank you so much for your messages. I'm sure Hiren and Anupriya are really appreciate them. Hiren, coming back to you slightly, so we mentioned about the different Nortas that happen during the year, but just for a bit more clarification, what is the difference between the four? And you mentioned slightly that the one in autumn that's more popular. How did that come to be?
Yeah, again, fantastic question. Also, thank you to all the people who are listening right now. Wonderful messages and really kind of appreciate them. So thank you. So I guess, as we mentioned, I think the aspect of the Gupta Navratri staying hidden is something that Mataji sadhaks in particular have tried to, maintain. So when we're talking about doing secret or hidden kind of sadhanas or pujas, it is very much that. I mean, when it's the Shardiya Navratri, kind of if people are doing things in their home, they kind of invite people to them, and it becomes kind of common knowledge that this is happening and it's Navratri time. But the Gupta Navratri is very different. Like I said, people just do things in their own house, kind of thing. And I think as a result, what happened is over time, what's happened is it's become kind of a very festive period or festive, time where Diwali is celebrated. Shortly, we got Sharad Poonam as well. We have Dashera, we have Navratri. It's kind of all like in 1 month. So over time, that's become a very kind of energized kind of time of the year. It's kind of a nice culmination of the year and events that's happened. And again, this is a very kind of Gujarati perspective. Other areas of India will celebrate Navratri on a much bigger scale on one of the other Navratris. So maybe Chaitra Navratri that we're referring to as Ram Navratri. So there's different kind of areas of India where they will celebrate it differently. But in particular, Shardiya Navratri has become very much part of a very festive season. But also, the Shardiya Navratri also celebrates the story of Mataji defeating Mahishasur. When we look into the Chandi part of the Devi Mahatmyam, it's the entire story of Mataji taking on the appearance of Durga and slaying Mahishasur. And as we know, Vijay Dashmi is the day believed where that happens as well. So there's a day, and obviously Ashtami as well. So those deities and those kind of significance of the stories of the Gathas, if you like, of Mataji, are very much known about Shardiya Navratri. And as we know, when it's Janmashtami, whether it's Ram Navami, whether it's Diwali, what we enjoy within our Sanatan Dharma, within Indian culture, is a good story, right? We enjoy the Gathas, we enjoy the aspects of Leelas. I mean, that's one reason why Krishna Bhagwan is such a popular Devta, because so much is known about Krishna Bhagwan, right from birth in Mathura. It's the story of him being a baby and then getting taken to Gokul, and then his stories of Gokul where he's defeating demons, he's stealing butter, he's lifting the Govardhan mountain, etc. We are fascinated, and it helps us build a connection with these Devi Devtas. And Shardiya Navratri celebrates the story of Mataji defeating the demon, who is the Mahishasur, and that's why also she's known as Mahishasur Mardini. And because that story celebrates Shardiya Navratri in particular, that's another reason why it's become such a much more heightened and enlightened kind of Navratri, where people, kind of celebrate that. And just to go back to, the beautiful, absolutely beautiful Garba that Anupriya sang, Gorandhari, that again celebrates Mataji, defeating these demons. Gorandhari re ratalari ma nisari achara swar. Mataji is, appearing on this battlefield, if like in the Gor, like this terrifying dark night, Gorandhari. And in Mataji Nisari, and it talks about these different Matajis appearing and they run onto the battlefield. And these stories then kind of translate into the Mataji, the Prachin, the traditional Mataji Garbas that are sung. They emphasize those stories even more. They talk about these demons that have been defeated. When you look at like Tu Kari ne Kalyani Morima, Jya Jo Tya Jog Mata, Tu Parvati ke Vani re Mani, Tu Bhasma Sur Har Nari re Ma. Garbas like that talk about these stories of Mataji defeating demons, and they talk about Mataji playing Garba as well during the Aso Mainana, Aso Masre and things. So all these kind of things kind of have combined to make the Shardiya Navratri a much more widely celebrated and a much more popular Shardiya Navratri out of all the four. And I think that's really kind of, I guess, complementary towards the Prachin or the traditional Mataji and Garbas that we find that are sung during Shardiya Navratri.
That was fantastic. Anupriya, back to you for another live sensational singing. Would you like to introduce what you'll be sharing with us?
Yeah, so the next two Garbas, you can also classify them as Ras. One is a popular one called Nagar Nandajina Lal, again sung for Krishna Bhagwan. And the other one I'm going to mix it in with is quite like a modernized version of Mane Rupani Jhanjiri Gharal. And this is sung by an artist called Sandvani. She's really an amazing woman. I spoke to her. She's a celebrity in India who sings these beautiful songs. And I've got some inspiration from her. So I'm going to try and sing part of that Ras also for Krishna Bhagwan. So let's start with Nagar Nandji Lal.
Okay.
Nagar Nandji Lal, Nagar Nandji Lal. Ras Ramam pe mari na thani khoani. Nagar Nandji Lal, Nagar Nandji Lal. Ras Ramam pe mari na thani khoani. Kana jari hoy to aar, kana jari hoy to aar. Ras Ramam pe mari na thani khoani. Nani nani nathani na mahi jare lahira. Nani nani nathani ne mahi jare lahira. Nathani apone mara sobat rana veera. Mara sobat rana veera. Nagar Nandji Lal, Nagar Nandji Lal. Ras Ramant mari nathani khoani. Kana jari hoy to aar, kana jari hoy to aar. Ras Ramant mari nathani khoani. Mane Rupani Jhanjari Gharal. Ho Valam Varnagi Mane Rupani Jhanjari Gharal. Ho Valam Varnagi Yeni Meenakari thi madhav. Ho Valam Varnagi Mane Rupani Jhanjari Gharal. Ho Valam Varnagi, Valam Varnagi, Valam Varnagi. Abhala bhareli mane odhani apave de. Abhala bhareli mane odhani apave de. Ghagarani korma morlo chitravi de. Ghagarani korma morlo chitravi de. हे मारा कम का महार क्यों पढ़ा. हो वालम वरनागी मने रूपानी झांझरे घरा. हो वालम वरनागी, वालम वरनागी, हे वालम वरनागी.
morning to those of you who have just tuned into me, Bhavini Makwana, on BHF Radio. And today we are talking about Navratri, Norta, Char, Norta, Varasmawe, and why they are, the significance of each, and just raising awareness about the different four, because many people think there are one, possibly two, but actually there's four. So we've had fantastic explanations about each by Hiren. Hiren Bhai is the radio presenter along with Maya Ben on the Bhajan Hour daily on BHF Radio, and we've had some live singing by Anupriya Ben, and you guys have been enjoying it. We've had a number of messages from Chandrakant Bhai, Sailesh Bhai. We've had Jyoti and Anish saying fantastic show, I'm really learning a lot, tuned in with my parents. So it's nice to see our younger generations tuned in, and a few more messages all saying the same, that they're enjoying the show and will definitely be tuning into the Bhajan show from now on, says Tara Ben from Northampton, saying fantastic show, we'll listen to the Bhajan show from tomorrow. I didn't know it was there, really loving the songs. Hiren, coming back to you, so everyone's saying that they really love your explanations and knowledge of things. Like, where has that come from? Have you studied, or where does your passion to learn about our culture come from?
That's a really interesting question, actually. I don't know how to answer if there is a specific answer. But I think, with all due respect, I think in particular, when our parents came to this country, I think the priority was to, get themselves settled, get us educated. And, they've done that. Like me and my siblings were all kind of very well educated, we're all working very hard. And that's thanks, to our parents. But what I have seen in very recent years is there has been a very kind of, change in mindset with the next generation, who are kind of probably going through a little bit of an identity crisis. Sometimes we go to India and we don't kind of fit in India, and here we're thinking, okay, we're definitely, we're not white, we are Indian, or we're Gujarati, or we're Hindu. And I think it's kind of an identity crisis that a lot of people are going through. And as I mentioned, on my kind of social media now, I'm seeing a lot of pages by young people who are embracing their religion, or they're kind of trying to find out more. And I think that's, really important and quite empowering once we understand our roots and our culture and where it's come from. And for me in particular, what I struggled with was there was a very big difference between what Samasi tells me in the Monday about what our religion is and what we can do. And what our Shastras tell us. And our Shastras, we believe are Bhagwan, we believe they are Vangme Swarup of God. And for me, that's always kind of been a learning point in terms of, I'm going to go straight to the source. I think one of the things, as I mentioned on the Bhajan show the other day, was someone saying, oh, if someone's lost their husband, they're supposed to stay at home and they can't do anything, they can't go anywhere for over a year, etc. And these are all cultural things that have really put people off from our religion, because sometimes culture is not always a good thing. Like, it's beautiful when you look at, for example, Navratri, and you get Anupriya singing beautiful, Garbas, and that's culture at its finest. That's how culture should be. But when we're doing things that kind of go against what our actual scriptures are, or what our religion is actually about, that's the worry. And so for me, I went back into scriptures, and I went and studied, some of the scriptures like the Ramcharitmanas, the Srimad Bhagavad. And, one thing that I really like, and I encourage all of your listeners to do, is to ask questions and to seek those questions. I mean, our religion is very open in that, we are always kind of promoted to ask those questions. When you look at the Bhagavad Quran, it starts with 6 questions. People are asking those questions. The Ramcharitmanas, similarly, Bharati is asking, Shankar Bhagwan, who is Ram, and, what's the importance, etc. So we've always kind of been promoted to be a bit more proactive, to engage your mind. If you have questions, ask them. And then you seek your answers, and you find, what aligns for you. And like I said, for me, it was scripture, going back to the source and realizing what actually our scripture is about. And again, looking at Navratri in particular, or Mataji Upasana, this is Kalyug, and a lot of people are kind of still putting down Mataji worship. I've been to a lot of kind of Mondays or different organizations and say, Mataji and Bhajan like Jarur Nati, Mataji is like what they call a demigod, etc. But when you look at Shiv Puran, or you look at the Chandi Path, etc., all these are different expansions of Bhagwan, right? But each one is obviously kind of propagated as a very important aspect, or a very important deity on your own individual path. And once you start reading yourself into scriptures, you'll find something that aligns within you. And that's why we have so many different Devi Devtas. We choose a path that aligns best with our own kind of our own attitudes, our own beliefs, our own principles. And once you find that path, you will feel comfortable and you'll feel it's something that is very easy to do once that bhakti becomes very easy, sadhanas become very easy because it's enjoyable then, it's personalized and tailored towards how you want to have that connection with Bhagwan. So I think what I would definitely encourage everyone to do if they're interested is to go back into scriptures and start very simply with the Ramcharitmanas or very simple stories that we're aware of, but delve a little bit deeper into what the meaning is behind that, and take it further. And finally, I listen to a lot of gathas. That's if I go on a long journey from here to London, like 3 hours, I'm thinking there's a good, like at least you get one good session of a gatha in. And that really helps as well because it really does put things into perspective as well. So yeah, for me, scriptures has always been a very important part of kind of gaining knowledge. And that's where a lot of it's come from. But finally, as Anupriya was singing earlier, some of these beautiful garbas and bhajans that we've got tell stories. And those stories, don't forget, as I was mentioning earlier, like scriptures were not accessible so often. And so the way they were kind of carried through, because not everyone had the ability to read and write, was through the medium of song and dance. You get Kathak, which was a dance form that originated from the Mandirs, because these dancers would act out stories of the Ramayana, of the Mahabharata, etc. So when we listen to garbas and bhajans and stuff, they also tell us stories relating to our scriptures, relating to the importance of Bhagwan, relating to Leelas or Gathas, etc. So I would also encourage your listeners to learn their mother tongue and to engage with those bhajans or those garbas or whatever their mother tongue is, whether it's Bengali, whether it's Punjabi, whether it's Gujarati, but do engage with it. And what you will find is you'll open up an entire new catalogue of bhajans and songs that will really help to kind of, help you identify a little bit more in a more accessible form some of our scriptures. So scriptures, and to go along with that is songs. And I kind of say to my sister, these are audiobooks, right? Listen to bhajans, they're like audiobooks of our scriptures. So please do. That is something that I would definitely encourage your listeners to do.
Yeah, we've just had a message from Rina and Dhruv Lad to say, really informative, loving the show this morning. Can't wait to share what we've learnt with our family and relatives. So do you know what? Really, really thank you for coming and joining me this morning and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us, because I think knowledge is for sharing and knowledge is power, right? So, we can only be educated by it. Hiren, you also, if you like this sort of things and you have certain questions, you answer questions on your bhajan show, don't you? Can you give a couple of examples if people are tuned in and thinking, oh, I can't ask that, that sounds a bit silly. Like, what kind of questions do you normally get asked?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, one thing I will definitely say is never be afraid to ask a question. And as I was saying, our shastras start with questions. Even if you think a question is a little bit, oh, should I ask that? Should I not? You can always get in touch confidentially. You can keep it completely anonymous and just say, oh, I have this question. And I think at the end of the day, it's like, I used to be a teacher, and that was the thing we used to always say, don't be afraid to ask questions. And we've had all sorts of questions. We've had questions relating to like funeral rites, why do certain things happen? Right down to, like vegetarianism, and also about different practices that we have in our religion and stuff like that. And also like kind of, we try to do things about story time. So we try to make some of these stories a lot more accessible, and also go into the meaning behind them. Like if God exists, and why did God take on this many forms, or why didn't God do this and why didn't God do that? And sometimes these discussions or these things that we call a chintan, they really kind of stimulate the mind. And also it's very good for us, anyone on a spiritual journey, to constantly question themselves as well. Otherwise, what happens is we follow things blindly then. And that's the worst thing that we can do, like bhakti without jnana becomes very dangerous, because we just follow things and end up doing things that is actually can be detrimental to our own kind of spiritual endeavors. So please do get in touch if you have any questions. It's very chilled out. It's a very informal show. Like I said, you can remain completely anonymous and confidential if you like, and many of our listeners have done so. But you can catch us Monday to Sunday, 8 to 9 o'clock anytime on BHF Radio.
Yeah, and just like you message sometimes through here, you can do it via the app on dedications. Or how else can people get in touch with you and Maiban, Hiren?
Yeah, so you can get in touch via the app. If you're listening live, we'll hear our numbers are given out pretty regularly. So if anyone does want to get in touch and wants to send in a question or just wants more information about the sessions that we do, you can feel free to send me a text message as well. So my number is 079 56887833. So I'll do it again. 079 56887833. and you can send me a text message. Maya Ben is listening. She's my co-host as well. So just a quick gesture to Maya Ben. She's messaged me saying, "Oh, you need to sing," but no. Anupriya's here. She has got a beautiful voice, so we're going to leave that
Well,
to
actually,
Anupriya
that
to
was
carry
going to
on.
be what I come back to you next. We have had Maiva messaging that she tells me you're a fantastic singer as well, so we can't let you go without a few lines. You have to sing for us.
I feel embarrassed. Like Anupriya's here. I'm nowhere near as good of a singer. I'll sing one of my favorite Prachin Garbas. I'll just sing a couple of lines because I know we're a bit short of time. Ma pava the kadti utarya mahakari re vasavyu champane pavagade vari re masu thari lave bajatiya mahakari re Mariamba mane kaj pavagade vari re ma pava the gadti utarya mahakari re. Just a few lines there, one of my favorite Garbas.
That was incredible. That was incredible, and I'm sure my Ben will agree. So, yeah, we got you to sing live on air. That was really nice. That was beautiful. That was really,
Thank you
really
very
good.
much. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been a really enjoyable morning as well. So thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. And thank you so much, Anupriya, for coming on. You are singing one final song for us before we have to go. And sadly, yes, it's time for us to go. We're coming up to 11 o'clock. We may be slightly running over, but I'm sure you'll all agree it's definitely been worth it. We've never run over 11 a.m. So it's the first time, and it's definitely been worth listening to both of you today. So until next Saturday, where we'll be joined by a different guest and we'll be discussing different themes and topics. Keep safe, enjoy your week. It's going to be a fabulous weekend wherever you are. Make sure you're protected by the sun and just, look after yourselves and those around you and keep safe. So before we have to go, we are listening to Anupriya Singers Out with her one final song, and we'll finish off with a Garba to end our hour this morning. So Anupriya, take it away.
Thank you so much, Bhavini. Thank you very much, Hiren. So we're going to start with a chand and then end off with Raghupati Raghava Jai Mataji and Jai Shri Krishna to all the listeners.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Shadayucharam Meghmalaram Bani Baharam Jaladharam Daduradattaram Mayurapukaram Taritataram Vistar Hinalahi Samaram Vyasaparam Nandakumaram Nirikhyari Kahe Radhe Pyari Me Balihari Gokulyavo Girdhari re jire Gokulyavo Girdhari re jire Gokulyavo Girdhari Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram 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 Bhaj pyare to Sitaram 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 Bhaj pyare to Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram 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 Bhaj pyare to Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram.